My mom has a photo. I turned 35 last summer. Yeah, 35. My mom has a photo of me as a 3 or 4-year-old, and she's holding me over birthday cake, and like this, yellowed 80s photo on the birthday cake is painted like a drum set. So I think I fell in love with the aesthetic of it before. My house was always musical. My dad would get drunk every Friday and listen to tons of old classic vinyl. And my mom was really involved in like the Christian church in the area and played piano and sang. So there's always music around. But I think I fell in love with the aesthetic of it first. Like a kid likes a toy truck or something. I can remember playing like on stage at my mom's church at like 7 or 8. And I think that's as far back as I can remember. But I don't know that I remember like a definitive moment where I started, which is really weird to say. I've never said that before. I don't know that I've ever started. I think I just did it. Like I think I have no other skills, so maybe that's the only skill I have. I don't know. I played a lot of church music with a big choir my mom was in, which was like almost like gospel funk, like not like quiet church music. And then my dad allowed himself to drink once a week, and he would buy a 12-pack of Coors Heavy and he had like 200 records, and it was like the Beatles and the Stones and a lot of yacht rock, like Steely Dan and the Eagles. So I just would play along to those. The first thing I can remember ever hearing was the Beach Boys in my headphones. It's the first time I ever wore headphones, and I remember thinking, I must have been like 6 or 7. That's the first time I ever remember hearing music. Maybe 5, I don't know. And I remember feeling like I was inside of it. That's really abstract and stupid, but that's true. So yeah, that's what I would play along to all those records. I would, I had this big coily set of headphones. I am getting old, aren't I? I wanted to join a band as soon as 8, probably 7 or 8. Like I just was convinced that I could do it and like make it or whatever, which is such a weird thing because it's so different now than it was in the 90s, like the early 90s. Like I guess I wanted to be in a band starting in like 1990, 91, but it was actually attainable then. If you wrote really good songs and you traveled around, you could really do it. Like we started traveling, and UnderØATH became like a local band like 2000, and then we started touring when Spencer joined the band full time, which was like 2003. So about 15 years now. And it was really possible that you could tour and make albums and people would like buy them and come and see you play. And now it's just so different, with streaming and everything, which is a good thing, but I'm just thankful we started early. So back then it was a real possibility that could be your career. And it is now, I guess, but I wouldn't know how to do it now. Before Spencer joined the band, we had like this lull, like where we had asked our singer to leave. We were like still a local band. And then we started writing some songs. I just was like singing, I guess. I don't know why. I guess we figured out that I could sing, but I couldn't scream. Like I feel like it's really weird, like not to compare our little band to these other bands, but like U2 and like all the people that created popular music, rock and roll music, like the Stones, and all these bands learned how to play together, right? And we kind of were the same thing. Like we discovered each other like through our own thing, which is really strange. Like the first record I fully sang on was They're Only Chasing Safety, which became successful. And it's a weird thing to say that, like we just figured it out. Like the guys would just be like, you can sing. And I'd be like, okay, I can sing. Like just from like riding in the van, they're like, you can sing. I was like, okay. Anyway, I didn't ever plan on being a singer, so that was like a weird, and I get myself in trouble with it now. Even when we make records, I play the drums and whatever, and then I'll go and do the vocals, and I'm like, oh shit, how do I do it at the same time? And it takes me like 2 weeks to figure it out, and I'm so mad at myself. I've learned to, with Erase Me was a little easier because I've learned to combat myself, but yeah, I always get myself in trouble, like overplaying. Lost in the Sound of Separation was really that one. I really messed myself up on that one. And we're playing like 5 or 6 songs off that record on this tour because it's the 10th anniversary of that record. And every night I'm like, why the hell did I do that? have to like count in my head, and like it's ridiculous. My voice on drums is I don't play or use the equipment or behave like I should for a band like mine. My influence as a kid was like Charlie Watts and Keith Moon and like jazz drummers like Max Roach and Buddy Rich and Dave Grohl. Nirvana was like life for me when I was in elementary school and middle school. But the style of music that we play and the type of band I'm in, I should be using like triggers and like really glassy sounding drums. And I use like a felt beater on my kick drum and like coated heads and no heads on the bottom of my drums. And I'm just really into more classic things. Like Bonham was a giant hero of mine. I'm really into more song-oriented drums. I play drums to the feeling, and being a writer is like a weird thing. You want to like follow the themes of the songs, I guess. So I guess that's what makes me different, is I don't really do anything the correct way for the genre of music that we're in. But I guess that's just how I do it. I would feel like a fraud if I did it any other way, I think. Oh, I have bad habits now. Horrible. I have no proper technique at all, I don't think. With UnderØATH, we want it to be bombastic and violent and challenging, like in terms of to look at, you know? So we always made everything big movements, and that's how we just expressed ourselves. So I just hit too hard and break everything all the time. But it's what UnderØATH makes me feel like. I can go do a solo thing and barely tap the drums, and that feels good too. But for whatever reason, UnderØATH has always been like this bombastic, heavy-hitting, noisy thing. So that's all bad technique, all of it. Anything I have inspired anyone with, or the band has inspired, I think it's because, well, what I can deduce it would be is because I just wear my heart on my sleeve behind the drums. I know that sounds really cheesy too. I'm really cheesing it up today. But I don't really think about like technique or time signatures or whatever when we're making music or when we're on stage. To me, it's about like the lyric and what the lyric means and how I can support that feeling, you know. And as a writer, like, I always just want to support the story and the feeling and the sentiment. And if I've had any impact on anyone, I think that would be wise, because I've just put it all out there for 15 years, as opposed to just like a calculated. I'm not saying that everyone does that, but when you go in the studio, it's really easy to look at yourself and go, you suck really bad. Like, pay attention, be more technically correct. But for me, it's always been about supporting the story and supporting the sentiment and supporting what it is that Spencer and I are trying to say, you know, which sometimes is really, it's really dark and cathartic, and which is possibly the reason why I've developed the style that I have, or whatever that is. But I think if there's any reason anyone looks up to me as a drummer, it's because there's guys out there that are so good. There's kids that are 20 years old that can play around me with one hand. But I just do what I feel, which is why I think we loved drummers back in the 70s and the 60s, because they just were feeling it. You know, there was really not the advanced drum technique that we have now. I just want to make people feel. That's been my goal the whole time. If you would have told me when I was 17 that I would be sitting here, I'd be like, no, there's no way. Just to be able to do this night after night all over the world, and people pay to see it, is a humbling, terrifyingly humbling thing. Someone asked me yesterday, and this pertains to this conversation in a strange way, but someone asked me the other day if I've ever been in a relationship with a fan, like a romantic relationship, and I said no. And they were like, really? And I was like, no, I've never been, I never met someone at a show and was like, let's hang out, like, let's go, I'll take you home. Or I've never done that in a roundabout way like that, because I want the people that come see us and come see this art and this music, I want them to be able to still feel the way that they feel about it after the show. I don't want to taint their memory of how it helped them through something or pissed them off or made them happy or whatever by becoming involved with them. So for me, that's my goal every night, is I want people to feel something and be able to use it and take it forever, not just be a trend or an idea. I want it to be something that they can, in 10 years, listen to that record again and go, man, like, that pulled me out of that hole I was in, or that helped me from that thing. And so, just like I wouldn't date a fan if I was a single man, I don't want to tarnish that, like, by trying to elevate myself or whatever. So that's my goal.